The encrypted line on Henry Brzezinski's phone was reserved for declarations of war or absolute disaster. The single code pulsing on the screen, however, was worse. A direct line to the House of Williams. Henry gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white against the black leather. Outside, the rain was not falling, it was assaulting the windshield of the armored sedan, mirroring the cold, controlled fury tightening in his chest. Betrayal. It was a familiar taste in his world, but never had it been so close to home. This remote, dilapidated auxiliary estate was nothing but a monument to his brother's weakness and recklessness, and now, disaster. He parked, cutting the engine, plunging the interior into silent darkness, broken only by the sound of the rain and his own steady, dangerous heartbeat. Henry moved with the predatory grace of a man who commanded fear, kicking in the basement door without bothering with the lock. Wood splintered, a sound of finality. His tactical flashlight beam cut through the suffocating darkness, illuminating the mold-stained concrete and the damp, metallic air. He didn't come to this place often, but the sight confirmed his suspicions. Squalor and sickness, typical of William's carelessness. Then the light landed on Diane Rivers. She was huddled against a drainage pipe, not chained, but bleeding profusely from a deep gash on her temple, her simple dress ripped. The shock wasn't the wound. It was the woman herself. She was the missing model whose case had dominated the city news, now reduced to a whimpering casualty in his family's secret lair. "Get the medic team on standby at the primary estate," Henry bit out into his comms, his voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. He moved toward her, his custom shoes clicking softly on the wet floor. Her wide, terrified eyes met his, filled with a mixture of pain and a fragile, defiant fear. He hadn't expected a victim. He came for a threat, but he found a bleeding liability tied directly to his traitorous brother. He crouched, his expensive suit now resting inches from her pooling blood. "My name is Henry. You're going to tell me what Williams did." Diane flinched when Henry reached toward her, terror written across her battered face. He could see the calculation in her eyes, determining if this new captor was better or worse than the last. Smart girl. In her position, trust would be fatal. "I'm not going to hurt you," Henry said, the words foreign on his tongue. He didn't comfort, he didn't promise, but something about her, bleeding, broken, yet still holding his gaze with defiant fear, triggered an unfamiliar urgency. "But you need medical attention, and I need answers." "He said you'd kill me," Diane whispered, her voice hoarse. "William said if his brother ever found me, you'd make me disappear." Henry's jaw tightened. Of course Williams had said that. His brother understood power only through cruelty, projecting his own sadism onto everyone else. Williams is a liar. Whatever he told you ends now. He shrugged out of his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The expensive fabric immediately soaked blood. Diane's fingers clutched the lapels instinctively. Henry lifted her with surprising gentleness. She weighed almost nothing, her body fragile in a way that made something protective flare in his chest. "What did you see?" Henry asked, carrying her toward the sedan through hammering rain. Diane's head lolled against his shoulder, but she fought unconsciousness. "The gala, 3 weeks ago. I saw him with the Morettis. They were arguing about your shipping routes. I was just in the wrong place, and Williams saw me listening. The Morettis. Henry's blood turned to ice. His family's oldest rivals, the one syndicate that could genuinely threaten everything he'd built, and Williams had been negotiating with them behind his back. He settled Diane in the back seat and grabbed the first aid kit. The head wound looked worse than it was, but the bruising on her wrists told him she'd been systematically broken down. He worked with efficient precision, cleaning and bandaging her wound. He gave them information, shipping schedules, distribution networks. He promised them everything because... She paused. Because he hates you. He said watching you fall would be worth anything. Henry's hands stilled briefly. Hatred he could handle, but betrayal from blood cut deeper than expected. "You're going to tell me everything," Henry said quietly. "Every conversation, every name, every detail. And in exchange, I'll keep you alive." "Just alive?" Diane asked, a spark of defiance in her exhausted eyes. Henry met her gaze, and for the first time in years, he didn't have a calculated answer ready. The primary estate materialized through rain like a fortress. Henry's physician, Dr. Chen, waited in the underground garage, her expression neutral despite the high-profile victim being carried in. Trauma to the head, dehydration, malnutrition, Henry reported clinically. 3 weeks captivity, full assessment, complete discretion. Dr. Chen nodded once. No hospitals, no authorities. This woman was now a ghost, existing only within Henry's protection. They moved Diane to the medical suite, better equipped than most hospitals. Diane drifted in and out as Dr. Chen worked, murmuring fragments between moments of lucidity. Names, dates, locations. Henry recorded everything, calculating the scope of Williams's betrayal. 2 shipments compromised, 3 distribution points exposed. Enough damage to start a war. "She needs rest," Dr. Chen said finally. "Put her in the East Wing. Post-security. No one enters without your permission. If you can't stand people who use their own family as pawns in twisted power games, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Type, "Blood doesn't excuse betrayal," because what Williams had done was just the beginning. Hours later, Diane woke in a room that looked nothing like a prison but functioned as one. Luxury sheets, designer furniture, a garden view, and bars on the windows disguised as decorative ironwork. Henry entered carrying food himself. "You need to eat, then we talk." "About what?" Diane asked, pulling the blanket higher. "About how you're my prisoner now instead of your brothers?" "About how you stay alive," Henry corrected. "Williams knows I have you. He'll want you back, not because he cares, but because you're the only witness to his treason. To the Morettis, you're a loose end. To federal investigators, you're a missing person whose reappearance triggers questions no one wants answered. And to you?" Henry studied her. "You're a problem I haven't decided how to solve, but you're my problem now, which means you're protected." It wasn't reassuring, but it was honest. Diane picked at the food. "What happens when you decide?" "That depends on you, on what you know, what you're willing to testify to, and whether you can follow instructions designed to keep you breathing." "I want to go home," Diane whispered. "Home doesn't exist for you anymore," Henry said flatly. "The moment Williams took you, your old life ended. You can accept that and work with me, or fight it and die anyway. Your choice." The cruelty of his honesty stole Diane's breath, but she recognized the truth.
Her face had been on every news channel. Williams had made sure she'd seen too much, and Henry was the only thing standing between her and a shallow grave. "Then I'm working with you," she whispered. Henry nodded, standing to leave. At the door, he paused. "The men guarding your door aren't here to keep you in, Diane. They're here to keep everyone else out. Remember that."
Over 2 days, Henry extracted every detail with surgical precision. They sat in his office, her in an oversized leather chair, him behind a desk that looked like a war room command center. Williams was furious at the meeting. The Moretti representative, Angelo, kept saying Williams was promising things he couldn't deliver. That's when Williams said he could deliver you. Henry's jaw tightened subtly. What exactly did he promise? Access to your entire East Coast operation, routes, contacts, protection schedules. He said once you were eliminated, the Morettis could absorb everything, and he'd run it for them. Henry stood, moving to the window. "Williams always resented me. When our father died, the Syndicate should have been split. But father knew what Williams was, impulsive, cruel without purpose, so he left everything to me." "Williams thinks you stole his birthright," Diane said quietly. "I saved his life," Henry corrected. "Every reckless decision, every failed venture, every enemy he made, I cleaned it up. And this is how he repays that loyalty." For the first time, Diane saw pain behind Henry's controlled exterior. Betrayal from blood cut deeper than any business rivalry. A knock interrupted them. Marcus, Henry's security chief, entered. Williams made contact. He wants a meeting, neutral ground, tomorrow night at the harbor. Says if you don't show, he starts burning your operations publicly. Henry's smile was predatory. "He's desperate." "Good. Confirm the meeting. And Marcus, triple security here. Williams might use it as a distraction for another attempt at Diane." After Marcus left, Diane stood. "You're walking into a trap. Williams and the Morettis together. They'll kill you." "They'll try," Henry agreed. "Then take me with you," Diane said impulsively. "Use me as leverage." Henry crossed the space in 3 strides, his presence overwhelming. "Absolutely not. You stay here where I can protect you." "I'm not helpless," Diane protested. "After everything he did, he'd love nothing more than to get his hands on you again. You're not leverage, Diane. You're a target, and I don't bring targets to negotiations." The possessiveness in his voice made something flutter in Diane's chest. "Why do you care? Really, I'm just a witness." Henry's hand came up, fingers gentle on her healing wound. "I don't know," he admitted, "but it does. And that's dangerous for both of us."
Henry prepared for war. Operations tightened. Assets moved, soldiers positioned. But his focus kept fracturing, pulled back to the East Wing where Diane remained. He checked security feeds more than necessary, watched her sleep, pace, stare out at a world she could no longer access. "You're distracted," Marcus observed. "That's not like you, boss." "I'm containing a security breach orchestrated by my own blood," Henry replied coldly. "It's not the breach distracting you," Marcus said carefully. "It's the girl. Caring about her makes you vulnerable, and Williams knows how to exploit vulnerability." Marcus was right. Every protective instinct Diane triggered was a weakness Williams could leverage. In their world, love was a loaded gun pointed at your own head. But when Henry returned to his office and found Diane curled in his chair reading, something in his chest constricted. She looked up, offering a tentative smile that shouldn't have affected him, but did. "I got bored," she explained. "I thought maybe "It's fine," Henry interrupted, pouring 2 whiskeys. He settled across from her. "Can't sleep?" "Nightmares," Diane admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that basement. If you believe loyalty and protection matter more than blood ties, hit that subscribe button. People like Williams won't, and you need to hear what Henry discovered about his brother's plan." "I found evidence today," Henry said. "Financial records Williams thought he'd hidden. He's been planning this for 18 months, stealing from the Syndicate, building his own war chest." 18 months, Diane repeated, horrified. "That's calculated." "He knew taking you was the final straw, the act that would force my hand. This meeting tomorrow isn't negotiation. It's Williams proving he can destroy me." "Then don't go," Diane pleaded. "There isn't another way," Henry said flatly. "If I don't show, he burns everything. Federal investigations, media exposure, all-out war. I won't let one bitter man destroy what I've built." Diane moved closer, kneeling beside his chair. "Then let me help. I know Williams. I spent 3 weeks listening to his plans, his weaknesses." "No," Henry said firmly, though his hand betrayed him by cupping her face. "You stay here, safe, where I can focus without worrying about you." "You worry about me?" Diane asked softly, leaning into his touch. Henry's thumb traced her cheekbone. "More than I should, more than is wise." "Then survive tomorrow. Come back, because I'm not ready to lose the one person who's treated me like I'm worth protecting." Her vulnerability broke something in Henry's walls. He pulled her up and kissed her, desperate, claiming, tasting like whiskey and promises he had no business making. When they broke apart, Henry rested his forehead against hers. "If I don't come back—" "You will," Diane interrupted fiercely, "because men like Williams don't get to win, and I need you to figure out what the hell this is between us." Henry smiled, genuinely. "That's the best motivation I've had in years."
Henry left for the harbor at midnight. 3 vehicles carrying him and 12 soldiers. The meeting was set at 1 a.m., but Henry knew better than to believe Williams would honor any rules. What he didn't expect was for Williams to strike at the estate instead. Diane was reading when the first explosion rocked the east wing. Windows shattered inward, glass raining like deadly snow. She rolled out of bed on instinct, her body remembering survival tactics. Guards burst in, weapons drawn. "We're under attack! Stay down!" Diane could hear gunfire, shouts, methodical destruction. This wasn't random. This was coordinated, designed to take advantage of Henry's absence. Williams had sent a hit team, a distraction within a distraction. Marcus appeared, blood streaming from his forehead. "We need to move you to the panic room, now." Diane followed through corridors transformed into war zones, bare feet finding purchase on carpets littered with debris. The attackers were too many, too organized. They weren't just here for her. They were here to burn everything Henry valued. The panic room was in the basement, reinforced steel hidden behind a wine cellar. Marcus pushed her inside. "Stay here. Don't open for anyone but me or Mr. Brzezinski." "What about you?" "I'm doing my job," Marcus said, and shut the door. Diane stood in darkness, listening to muffled violence above. She thought about Henry racing back from the harbor. She thought about Williams orchestrating this with the same hands that had beaten her, starved her, broken her.
Time became meaningless. Minutes or hours passed before the locks disengaged. Diane grabbed the gun Marcus had left her, loaded, safety off, and aimed at the opening door. Henry stood there, suit jacket gone, white shirt splattered with blood. His eyes found her, and the relief that flooded his expression was visceral. "You're safe," he said, and pulled her into his arms. Diane clung to him, feeling his rapid heartbeat. "Williams? He's escaped," Henry said bitterly. The harbor meeting was empty. This was his real play. He wanted to burn my home and take you while I was distracted. "He failed," Diane pointed out. "I'm still here. We're both still here." "This time," Henry agreed. "But he'll try again, more desperate, more dangerous." They emerged to find the estate damaged but standing. 5 of William's men dead, 3 of Henry's wounded. Marcus sat on a bullet-riddled sofa, a medic wrapping his ribs, giving Henry a tired nod. But contained wasn't eliminated. Williams was still out there, more desperate than ever. "We can't stay here," Henry decided. "The estate's compromised. Williams knows every weakness. We need to disappear until I can end this permanently." "Disappear where?" Henry's smile was cold. "Somewhere Williams would never look. Somewhere I can draw him out and finish this on my terms."
They fled before dawn. Just Henry, Diane, and 2 soldiers in an unmarked USV. No entourage, no trail. Henry drove them north into rural country where the Brzezinski name meant nothing. The safe house was a cabin, deliberately unremarkable, off-grid, stocked with supplies and weapons. Henry had safe houses scattered across 3 states, properties purchased under shells, within shells. This one he'd never used. "It's not the estate," Henry said, almost apologetic. Diane laughed slightly. "The estate was just attacked by a dozen armed men. I'll take rustic security over luxury danger." The soldiers swept the perimeter, while Henry secured the interior. Diane watched him work, this man who moved with equal confidence, commanding an empire or preparing for survival. "How long do we stay?" she asked. Henry replied, setting up encrypted communication. "Until Williams makes a mistake. He's desperate, sloppy now. He'll reach out to the wrong contact, move money through wrong channels, show himself where my people can find him." And then? Henry met her gaze with nothing civilized in his eyes. "And then I make sure he never threatens you again." The cabin had 1 bedroom. The soldiers took shifts outside, leaving Henry and Diane alone in proximity that felt dangerous and inevitable. They'd been dancing around the attraction since that kiss in his office, but now, stripped of formality and faced with shared danger, the tension became unbearable. "Take the bedroom," Henry said, unpacking supplies. "I'll sleep on the couch." "Don't be ridiculous," Diane countered. "We're both exhausted. The bed's big enough. And after everything, I don't want to be alone." Henry studied her, and Diane saw the war behind his eyes. Professional distance versus personal desire. "Diane," Henry said carefully, "if I get in that bed with you, I'm not sure I can maintain appropriate boundaries." "Good," Diane said boldly, "because I don't want you to. Comment loyalty over blood if you're Team Henry and Diane. The betrayal can't win."
Now watch what happens when they finally stop fighting what's between them.
They came together like a storm, desperate, fierce, all the tension and fear and attraction finally finding release. Henry kissed her like she was oxygen, his hands gentle, despite the violence they were capable of. "This is insane," Henry murmured. "Everything about us, strategically unsound." "Then stop strategizing," Diane whispered. "For once, just feel." And Henry did. In that cabin, surrounded by weapons and danger, they built something fragile and fierce. Henry made love to her with intensity that felt like promises, like claims, like he was branding himself into her soul. Afterward, they lay tangled together. Henry traced patterns on her bare shoulder, his expression uncharacteristically soft. "When this is over," he said quietly, "when Williams is handled, I can't let you go." Diane propped up on one elbow. "Is that a warning or a promise?" "Both," Henry admitted. "My world is violent, dangerous. Staying with me means accepting you'll always be a target, that normal life is impossible, that love in the Syndicate is a weapon others will use against us." "I know," Diane said simply. "I've seen what it costs, but I've also seen you, the real you, and that's who I'm choosing." Henry pulled her down for a kiss that sealed their pact. "Then you're mine, completely, and I protect what's mine with everything I have."
They stayed 3 days in the cabin, a strange domestic interlude during war. Henry worked contacts remotely, setting traps for Williams while maintaining enough Syndicate business to prevent chaos. Diane helped where she could, her modeling career having taught her more about reading people than anyone expected. But mostly, they learned each other. Henry told her about growing up in the Syndicate, about his father building an empire through calculated violence, about the day his father died and left him everything, igniting Williams's festering resentment. Diane told him about her life before, the modeling, superficial glamour, loneliness of being seen but never known, about the gala where everything changed. "Do you miss it?" Henry asked one evening by the fire. "Your old life?" Diane considered honestly. "I miss the freedom, the simplicity. But that person who worried about photo shoots, she feels like someone else now, someone naive." "You're not naive," Henry said firmly. "You survived 3 weeks of captivity, adapted to impossible circumstances, kept your courage when most would have broken. That's strength." The validations settled something in Diane's chest. "What happens when this is over? Do I just disappear into your world completely?" Henry pulled her closer. "I won't lie. Coming into my life means leaving your old one behind. Diane Rivers, the model, is missing, presumed dead. We can't resurrect her without triggering investigations, but we can build something new. A life where you're protected, valued, free within boundaries of my world." "A gilded cage," Diane said, without judgment. "A partnership," Henry corrected. "I'm not Williams. I don't want you as a possession. I want you beside me, as my equal in everything that matters. Even though your world doesn't usually work that way." Henry's smile was sharp. "I make the rules in my world, and I'm changing them for you."
Henry was offering not just protection, but power. A place beside him at the top, defying every tradition. It was insane, dangerous, and exactly what Diane wanted.
"Then I'm in," she said. "Completely. Permanently, whatever that means." Henry kissed her, sealing the promise. Diane felt the last of her old life fall away. She wasn't a victim, wasn't a liability. She was Henry Brzezinski's partner, his choice, his fiercely protected future. The moment shattered when a soldier burst in, weapon ready. "Boss, movement on the access road. 2 vehicles, unknown make, could be Williams." Henry was on his feet instantly, the lover transforming into the boss. "How far out?" 5 minutes, maybe less." Henry grabbed weapons, tossing Diane a handgun and magazines. "You remember what I taught you?" Diane checked the weapon with steady hands. "Safety off, aim center mass, squeeze, don't pull." "I remember." "Good girl." Henry said, pride in his voice steadying her. "Stay behind me. If something happens—" "Nothing is happening to you," Diane interrupted fiercely. "We survive together or not at all." Henry's expression softened briefly before hardening. "Then let's make sure it's together."
The vehicle stopped 100 yards out, far enough to avoid immediate confrontation, but close enough to threaten. Henry watched through his rifle scope, counting hostiles. 8 men, professionally armed, moving with tactical precision. Not Williams' usual thugs, Morettis soldiers. "Williams sent his new friends," Henry said coldly. "He's too much a coward to come himself." "Or waiting to see if they succeed," Diane pointed out. "Either way, they don't leave here alive." The firefight was brief but brutal. Henry and his soldiers had superior position and training, picking off Morettis soldiers with efficient precision. But one man broke through, circling to the back cabin entrance. Diane heard splintering wood and turned, weapon raised, as the soldier burst in. She fired without hesitation. 3 rounds center mass. The soldier went down, and Diane stood frozen, staring at the first life she'd taken. "Diane!" Henry was there, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "I killed him," Diane whispered. "You survived," Henry corrected firmly, making her meet his eyes. "In our world, that's what matters. You protected yourself, protected this location. You did exactly what you needed to do." The last gunfire stopped. Henry's soldiers confirmed all hostiles eliminated, but the message was clear. Williams knew where they were and would escalate. "No more running," Henry decided, pulling out his encrypted phone. "Williams wants war. I'll give him one. On my terms, in my territory, where I can end this permanently." He made calls, activating reserved resources. Within an hour, every Moretti asset in the city would be under surveillance or attack. Every contact Williams had would receive visits. The Brzezinski Syndicate, fully mobilized, was terrifying. "What about Williams himself?" Diane asked. Henry's smile was predatory. "I'm going to offer exactly what he wants. A face-to-face meeting. He thinks he can kill me, take over the Syndicate, and claim you as a trophy. His arrogance will be his downfall." "It's a trap," Diane understood. "I'm giving him rope to hang himself," Henry confirmed. "Tomorrow night, the old Brzezinski warehouse. Neutral ground he'll think he can control. But I'll have 50 soldiers in positions he doesn't know exist, weapons he can't counter, and motivation he can't match." "Take me with you," Diane said immediately. "Absolutely not. You stay here, protected."
"He wants me,"
Diane argued. "Use me as bait. Make him so focused on getting to me that he doesn't see you coming." Henry grabbed her shoulders, expression tortured. "I can't risk you like that. But something will go wrong if you underestimate how obsessed Williams is with me," Diane countered. "You said it yourself. I'm what pushes him past reason. So let's use that, together." Henry studied her face and accepted the logic, even though he hated it. "You don't leave my sight, not for a second. And if I give an order, you follow without question. Agreed?" "Agreed," Diane said, kissing him hard. "Now let's finish this. If you watched or listened up to this point, comment the country you are watching this from. Represent your country." The warehouse loomed against the night sky, a skeletal monument to the Brzezinski family's industrial past. Henry had chosen it deliberately. Sentimental value for Williams, tactical advantage for himself. He'd spent the day positioning soldiers, transforming the apparently abandoned space into a kill box, disguised as neutral ground. Diane stood beside him in the center of the warehouse floor, visible, vulnerable, bait. She wore body armor under her clothes, had a weapon hidden at her back, and Henry's soldiers had orders to protect her above all else, even above Henry. "He's here," a soldier reported through Henry's earpiece, "coming in through the south entrance with 12 men. "Let them come," Henry said calmly, his hand squeezing Diane's once. "Remember, when I move, you move. Stay behind me." Williams entered with the swagger of a man who thought he'd won. He'd aged poorly, face gaunt, eyes wild with desperation and substances. 12 Morettis soldiers flanked him, weapons visible but not raised. "Brother," Williams called out, voice echoing, "I see you brought my property." "Diane isn't property," Henry replied, dangerously quiet. "And she's not yours. She's mine. Completely, permanently, protected by every resource I possess." Williams' laugh was ugly, hysterical. "You actually care about her? God, Henry, you're getting soft. Father would be disgusted." "Father would be disgusted by you," Henry corrected coldly. "By your betrayal, your deals with enemies, your pathetic attempt to steal what you were never capable of earning." He gestured, and his soldiers raised weapons, but Henry had been counting on the emotional breakdown, the moment Williams's rage overwhelmed strategy. "Now," Henry said quietly into his comms. The warehouse exploded into controlled chaos. Henry's soldiers emerged from positions Williams didn't know existed, flanking the Moretti forces with overwhelming firepower. The Morettis realized too late they'd walked into a trap. Williams, seeing his plan collapse, did exactly what Henry predicted. He went for Diane himself. He crossed the distance with shocking speed, knife appearing in his hand, but Henry was faster. He stepped between Williams and Diane, deflecting the blade, while his fist connected with his brother's jaw. Williams went down hard, the knife skittering across concrete. "It's over," Henry said, standing over his brother. "The Morettis are neutralized. Your soldiers are dead or captured. You've lost." Williams laughed, blood streaming from his split lip. "If I can't have it, neither can you." He lunged, not for Henry, but for Diane. And Henry understood. Williams had never planned to survive. This was suicide by Syndicate, taking Henry's happiness into death. Henry fired 3 times, center mass, before Williams could reach Diane.
His brother collapsed at her feet, blood pooling, eyes glazing. You chose her." His last words gasped, equal parts accusation and disbelief. "Every time," Henry said, and watched his brother die.
The cleanup took hours. Bodies removed. Morettis survivors delivered to interrogation specialists. Witnesses eliminated or paid off. The warehouse burned before dawn, erasing physical evidence, but political consequences would echo for months. Henry stood in his rebuilt office, repairs completed with remarkable speed when you had unlimited resources, and faced his assembled captains. These men ran the Syndicate's daily operations, had sworn loyalty to the Brzezinski name. They stared at Diane, standing beside Henry's desk, calculations happening behind their eyes. "This is Diane," Henry said, tone brooking no argument. "She's under my protection. More than that, she's my partner. She speaks with my authority. She knows our business, and anyone who has a problem with that can leave now." Silence. Heavy, loaded, dangerous. These men weren't accustomed to women in positions of power, weren't comfortable with Henry's public claim, but they were smart enough to recognize Henry wasn't asking permission. "The Morettis are fractured. Williams's treachery has been exposed and punished. We're stronger now than we've been in years, and we're expanding. Anyone loyal to the Brzezinski Syndicate will profit. Anyone who isn't," he let the threat hang unfinished. One by one, the captains nodded acceptance. They might not like it, might grumble privately, but Henry's word was law. And Diane, standing there in elegant clothes with her chin high, looked every inch the queen of this dangerous empire. After the meeting, alone in their private space, Henry pulled Diane into his arms. "No going back now. You're committed to this life, to this world, to me. I was committed the moment you found me bleeding on that basement floor. Everything since has just been acknowledging what was already true." "It won't be easy," Henry warned. "There will be people who resent you, who try to use you against me. There will be danger, violence, moments when you'll wonder if you made the right choice. And there will be you," Diane countered, touching his face, "protecting me, partnering with me, giving me a life that's dangerous but real. I'll take that over safe and hollow any day."
Henry kissed her, deep, claiming a promise of all the dark, complicated, fiercely protected years ahead. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "You're mine," he said softly, "my partner, my equal, my fiercely guarded future, and I will burn this world down before I let anyone hurt you again." "I know," Diane whispered. "That's why I chose you." Outside the office windows, the estate sprawled across manicured grounds, a fortress disguised as elegance. Inside, Diane Rivers, former model, survivor, now Syndicate queen, stood beside Henry Brzezinski and looked toward a future that was dangerous, unorthodox, and entirely theirs. The Mafia boss had found her bleeding on the floor of his brother's house, but what he'd really found was his match, his equal, the woman who would stand beside him through blood and violence and the complicated business of building love in the darkest corners of their world. And together, they were unstoppable.